welcome to another short video with Happy Histories of Michael. Today it's the weekend and we are just adjacent to Fleet Street, which is normally thriving, but of course because it's the weekend it's nice and quiet, and it's even quieter in this lovely square here. This is Goffs Square, and this was the home of the famous Samuel Johnson, who of course made the dictionary of the English language, and we know him through James Boswell's Life of Dr. Samuel Johnson. What I find intriguing about a person is the way that they treat animals and their fellow human beings. And Dr. Johnson really loved his cat. He had numerous cats, but most famous was this little fellow here, who was called Hodges. And Hodges loved oysters. And so on the statue we've got a little oyster shell here. Now, in the 1700s, when Dr. Johnson was alive, oysters were like the junk food of the day. It was like going and buying a McDonald's. And Dr. Johnson, he had various servants, but he didn't want to embarrass them by sending them to buy oysters. So he would do it himself to spare them their embarrassment. In fact, when Hodges died, the people who would visit Samuel Johnson, they got to know him. He was a very friendly fellow. And of course, Dr. Johnson was madly in love with him. And he actually put an obituary in the newspaper. And I'll read it to you now. It said in the paper, "Hodges, when by his master caressed, warmly his gratitude expressed, and never failed his thanks to purr whene'er he stroked his sable fur." So that's that little story there. Of course, there's another story about Dr. Johnson as well. He lived in a time when the slave trade was rife, and he was a big critic of the slave trade. He had no time for it at all. He was also very happily married to his wife Elizabeth, but when his wife passed away, he went into a really deep depression, and he was trying to kind of get by on his own. Now, a friend of his from the Bathurst family, a very wealthy family, they had made a fortune in Jamaica from sugar. And when they returned from Jamaica to this country, he brought one of his slaves with him, who was only about 10 years of age. His name was Francis Barber. And when Dr. Johnson's wife died, Mr. Bathurst sent Francis Barber to look after him as his kind of manservant. And he stayed with him all his life until death, until Dr. Johnson passed away. He was educated by Dr. Johnson and he served his secretary. But at one point in his life, he fell out with Dr. Johnson's housekeeper. And he left for a short while. He trained as an apothecary, and he also joined the Royal Navy. Now, this was at a time when the Royal Navy was worse than slavery, really. But he joined up and he served in the Royal Navy. In fact, at the time, the Royal Navy was so unpopular, the Navy had to actually press people into service and force them to serve as sailors. But he served as a sailor, and he was actually had very good reports for his service. When Dr. Johnson died, he was very aware, Francis is here and I need to give him some sort of a pension. And he knew death was approaching, and he asked a lawyer friend, what would be a good kind of a legacy to leave my servant? And somebody said, £30 would be considered very generous. He, in fact, gave him £70. And, so Francis Barber lived very comfortably on that. He married an English lady called Elizabeth Bell, and his child then became a Methodist minister. And more children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren came along. And in fact, Cedric Barber is alive today and still has contact with the museum, Dr. Johnson's house. So anyway, that's the story of Hodges and Francis Barber. If you're in Fleet Street, you must pay them a visit. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.